Welcome to today's deep dive. We're going to be looking at the psychology of Elon Musk. We've got some excerpts from an article analyzing his mental makeup. It'll be fun to unpack what makes him tick. I think we're not just interested in his success stories. We want to understand the traits that make his approach to life and business and tackling the massive challenges he takes on. So interesting stuff.
It is interesting that you say that because so often we focus on what he's achieved. SpaceX, Tesla, his whole Mars ambition. But this article goes deeper into the psychology. It's driving his decision-making and approach to seemingly everything.
Yeah, and the first thing that jumps out is this concept of visionary thinking. It's highlighted as one of Musk's defining traits in the article. It's almost uncanny how he envisions these futures. To most people, they seem completely impossible.
Yeah, it's what psychologists call future orientation. And it's a powerful trait. It's not just about dreaming big. It's about having a conviction that those impossible futures can be achieved. Think about SpaceX and its mission to make humanity multiplanetary, or Tesla's goal of transitioning the world to sustainable energy. These aren't incremental improvements. They're paradigm shifts in how we think about the future.
It is mind-boggling when you think about the scale of his ambitions. It takes a lot of creativity to even conceive of those futures, let alone the risk tolerance and self-belief to actually pursue them.
And that's where his visionary thinking is so compelling. It's contagious. He genuinely believes in these ambitious goals. He's able to attract investors, inspire employees, and create this aura of possibility. He's bending reality to his will.
Okay, but let's be honest. It hasn't all been smooth sailing for Musk. He's faced a ton of setbacks. Near bankruptcy, failed rocket launches, public scrutiny, lots of critics. But the article emphasizes another trait: his ability to bounce back from adversity.
Exactly. It's a high emotional resilience. Think back to when both Tesla and SpaceX were close to collapsing. Most people would have cut their losses, played it safe. But Musk doubled down. He poured his remaining resources into those companies, driven by an unshakable belief in their success.
It's fascinating. He seems to view failure not as a reason to give up, but as a stepping stone, a necessary part of the journey.
It's more than that. He seems to extract valuable lessons from those failures. Each setback fuels his determination to succeed. This ties back to his visionary thinking. Because he's so convinced of the ultimate goal, he withstands these temporary setbacks without losing sight of the bigger picture.
So you're saying that his resilience is actually what allows him to keep pursuing those audacious visions. It's like a self-reinforcing cycle.
That's a great way to put it. And that brings us to one of the most talked about aspects of Musk's approach: first principles thinking. The article digs into how this has been key to his success. It's not just a buzzword. It's a fundamental way of thinking that's allowed him to disrupt industries.
Right. We hear that term thrown around a lot. I'm curious to understand what it means in practice. How does it differ from conventional problem solving?
Well, it's about breaking down complex problems to their most fundamental truths, the underlying principles that govern them. Instead of accepting conventional wisdom or the way things have always been done, Musk starts from scratch. He asks, what are the basic elements, and how can we reimagine them?
The best example is how SpaceX tackled the issue of rocket costs. The traditional aerospace industry had established ways of doing things, which were incredibly expensive. Musk took a different approach.
Yeah, he basically said, okay, what are rockets actually made of? He looked at the raw materials, aluminum, titanium, the components, and realized that the actual cost was significantly lower than what the industry was charging. So SpaceX built many of its components in-house, cutting out the middlemen, disrupting the cost structure of the entire industry.
That's amazing. It challenges the assumption that certain industries are inherently expensive.
Yeah, it's about not taking anything for granted, questioning the status quo, and having the confidence to forge a new path, even when everyone else tells you it can't be done. That's a powerful lesson, and it's applicable to all sorts of challenges, not just rocket science.
I'm starting to see how these traits are all connected. His visionary thinking leads him to tackle big problems. His resilience allows him to persevere through setbacks, and his first principles thinking enables him to find innovative solutions that others might miss.
You're catching on. It's like these traits work together to create this, well, almost unstoppable force. But there's another element that's crucial to understanding Musk: his relentless drive to execute his vision. He's not just a big-picture thinker. He's obsessed with making things happen.
And we've all heard the stories about his incredible work ethic. The article touches on this, right, Dave?
It does. And this is where his drive and perfectionism come into play. Remember the infamous production hell phase of the Tesla Model 3? Musk was living at the factory, sleeping on the floor, working around the clock to get those cars rolling off the production line.
It's hard to fathom that level of dedication.
It speaks to his internal drive to meet the standards he sets for himself. But it also raises questions about the sustainability of that approach. Is this level of intensity necessary to achieve groundbreaking results? And at what cost? We'll delve into those questions later.
This is getting really interesting. I'm starting to see how complex and a little bit contradictory Musk's psychology is. But before we get into the potential downsides, there's one more trait that the article highlights. I want to explore systems thinking.
Ah, yes. This is where Musk's ability to see the bigger picture and connect seemingly unrelated things becomes apparent. It's a fascinating aspect of his approach, and it's been instrumental in the success of his ventures.
I've heard about this in the context of Tesla's gigafactories. They're not just car factories, they're these massive integrated systems. But I'd love to understand how systems thinking works in practice.
So it's about understanding how different parts interact and influence each other to create a larger whole. Instead of optimizing individual components, Musk looks at the entire system. He identifies ways to maximize efficiency and synergy.
Okay, so in the case of the gigafactories, how does that play out?
Well, Tesla's gigafactories aren't just assembling cars. They're producing batteries, generating renewable energy, even recycling materials, all within a single interconnected system. It's about optimizing the entire process, from raw materials to finished product.
So it's not just about building a better car, it's about rethinking the entire production and energy ecosystem. That's pretty impressive.
And SpaceX operates in a similar way. They handle almost everything in-house, from building the rockets to launching the satellites for Starlink. Their satellite internet constellation, this vertical integration, this holistic approach to solving problems, that sets Musk apart.
It's like he's playing a massive game of chess, thinking several moves ahead, anticipating how each decision will impact the whole system.
Precisely. And this brings us to a trait that's both fascinating and, well, a bit concerning. Musk's borderline obsession with his work.
Yeah, that's one thing that always stands out. In the stories about him, the article doesn't shy away from that either, does it?
It doesn't. It talks about his extreme focus and a level of personal sacrifice that most people would find unimaginable. He's admitted to working insane hours, skipping vacations for years, putting his work above everything else in his life.
It's almost like he's consumed by his mission, driven by this overwhelming sense of urgency and responsibility.
And that's the paradox of Elon Musk. On one hand, you have this brilliant mind, this incredible drive to solve humanity's biggest challenges. But on the other hand, there's this potential for self-destruction, this almost reckless pursuit of his goals at the expense of his own well-being, and potentially the well-being of those around him.
It definitely raises a lot of questions about the nature of ambition, the price of success, and the limits of human endurance.
And those are the questions we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive. We'll look at the potential downsides of Musk's approach, the risks associated with this level of obsession, and whether there are any lessons we can learn from him without burning ourselves out or pushing others too far.
This is already so insightful. I can't wait to dive deeper into these complex issues and see what other insights we can uncover about Elon Musk's psychology.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating. Welcome back. Before the, I guess I'll call it a pause, we were talking about Elon Musk's, let's say, intense dedication to his work. And it makes you wonder about the potential downsides of that level of commitment.
Yeah, because while ambition and drive are great qualities, there's a point where they can become detrimental, both to the individual and to the people around them. And the article hints at some of the challenges Musk has faced. As a result of his work ethic,
We've all heard the anecdotes about his crazy work schedule, the long hours, lack of sleep. It makes you wonder about the toll it takes on his well-being, his relationships, his quality of life. Right. And he's been pretty open about that. The fact that his intense focus has come at a cost to his personal life. He's spoken about struggling to find balance between work and everything else.
it raises the question about the sustainability of that approach. Can you really pour everything into your work without sacrificing other things that are important for a good life?
It's something a lot of high achievers struggle with, finding that sweet spot between goals and well-being. And with Musk, it seems like the scales are tipped toward work.
The article also mentions the impact his work ethic has on the people around him. Like his employees, there have been reports of a demanding work environment, high expectations, even burnout among the staff.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about the culture at his companies. Some former employees describe a fast-paced, high-pressure atmosphere where long hours and intense dedication are the norm. And while that might be exciting for some, it's not for everyone. And it can lead to high turnover.
It's a good reminder that even if you're driven by good intentions, like saving the planet or making humanity multiplanetary, you need to think about the human cost of your ambitions. You can't push everyone to their breaking point.
That's where leadership requires balance. It's inspiring people to do extraordinary things, but also creating an environment that's sustainable and respects their well-being.
And what about the impact on his personal relationships? I mean, it's hard to imagine maintaining healthy relationships when you're working all the time.
Right. There have been reports of strain on his relationships, and it's not hard to see why. When your life is your work, there's not much room for anything else.
It makes you think about the sacrifices people make to achieve their dreams and whether those sacrifices are worth it.
That's a personal question, of course. It depends on your values and priorities. But there are often trade-offs when you're going after big goals.
So how do we reconcile these two sides of Musk? On one hand, he's this amazing leader and innovator, but on the other hand, he pushes himself and others to the limit.
It's complex. I don't think there's an easy answer. But maybe we can learn from his strengths without repeating his weaknesses.
Like we've talked about, first principles thinking, his resilience, his systems thinking, those are all valuable.
Exactly. We can try to use those while also looking after ourselves and the people around us. It's about sustainable success, not burning out or sacrificing everything.
Finding that balance, being ambitious but not reckless, driven but not obsessive, a visionary leader who doesn't forget about the human cost.
You got it. It's a tough balance, but it's something to keep in mind, whether we're leading companies or just trying to reach our goals.
It's a reminder that success isn't just about goals. It's about living a fulfilling life, a life that includes relationships and well-being, and purpose beyond work.
And that might be the biggest takeaway from Elon Musk's story. It's about a sustainable path to success, one where we can thrive, personally and professionally, without losing our humanity.
That's something to think about. As we go into the last part of our deep dive, we've seen the good and the bad. Now I want to see what practical lessons we can learn from Musk, insights we can use in our own lives.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Elon Musk's psychology. We've talked about a lot, from his visionary thinking to his drive and maybe some downsides of that. Now I want to shift gears and think about what we can learn from this guy. His psychology is complex, but there are definitely insights we can take away.
Yeah, for sure. And just to be clear, we're not saying copy everything Musk does or try to match his intensity. It's more about taking the good stuff, the principles and ideas that we can use in our own lives without burning out or sacrificing our well-being.
That's not about becoming a workaholic. It's about understanding what makes him successful.
And one thing that really stands out is the power of first principles thinking. It's a popular concept now, but Musk really lives it. It's been cool hearing you explain how he uses it in different areas, like changing the space industry or electric cars. But how can we use this kind of thinking? It seems like a big change in perspective.
Well, it starts with questioning assumptions. We're always told how things should be done. First principles thinking makes us strip that away and get to the core of the problem. So instead of just accepting things, we ask, what are the basic truths? What are the real principles?
It's like seeing the world with new eyes.
Exactly. Like a child who hasn't learned the rules yet. And you can use it for anything, big problems or small decisions. It helps you break things down and rebuild them better.
It sounds great for innovation, but it also sounds like it takes mental effort.
It does take curiosity and a willingness to question things, but the rewards can be huge. You open yourself up to new possibilities that you wouldn't see otherwise.
I like that. Always learning and exploring.
Yeah. And another lesson from Musk is his resilience. He's had so many setbacks, but he always comes back stronger.
It is inspiring. He doesn't let failure stop him.
That's something we can all learn from. We all face tough times, but the key is to have that grit, to believe you can overcome anything.
It's about seeing failure as a chance to learn and come back better.
Exactly. Resilience is that inner strength to keep going, even when it's hard, to believe in yourself and find solutions.
And it's about having people around you who support you.
That's true. A good support system is so important.
And let's not forget about purpose. From what we've learned about Musk, he wants to solve the biggest problems. He's not just building companies for money. He's trying to make a difference.
His vision is bigger than just business. He cares about climate change, the future of energy, the survival of humanity. That purpose drives him.
It's inspiring. What if more leaders were like that?
It's an interesting thought. We may not all be colonizing Mars, but we can all find purpose in our work and our passions.
It's about finding what matters and making it happen.
Right. It gives you the energy to keep going because you know why you're doing it.
It's about making a difference.
Exactly. And one last thing, systems thinking. We talked about it with Tesla and SpaceX. It's understanding how things connect.
Seeing the big picture and making decisions that help the whole system.
Right. This is helpful for anything.
Yeah.
Leading teams, managing your life, it helps you think long term.
So as we finish up, I'm struck by how complicated Musk is. A visionary, an innovator, and yet sometimes controversial, but he's definitely made an impact.
He shows us what humans are capable of, with vision, determination, and a willingness to challenge the norm.
Yeah.
But he also reminds us to find balance, take care of ourselves, and be ethical.
It's about finding that balance between ambition and well-being, pushing boundaries but knowing your limits, leading with vision and compassion.
Very well said.
And using our talents to make a positive impact.
It's been fascinating, exploring Elon Musk's mind.
I agree. I've learned a lot. And until next time, keep diving deep, exploring the human mind, and finding wisdom that helps us live better lives.